All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Jesse is here. We're back. Oh my gosh, it's been a long time, actually. It's been, yeah, way longer than it needs to be. I'm going to make a lot more videos. A lot of videos are going to start coming out. But this one, just to start, we're going to talk about Torchlight Infinite. We're going to compare this game to Path of Exile. Now, I am a longtime Path of Exile player, and I think that Path of Exile is one of my favorite games of all time. I do love the game, but this game has captured my attention, and it is not without merit. So we have a list to go through, and there are quite a few items on the list. So pardon me here. All right, we have pros, and we have some cons, and then we have some other things worth talking about. Let's do 150. So before I even go through the list, Torchlight Infinite is an action RPG. It is, unlike Path of Exile, it is, I think, initially designed for tablet and mobile play, but I am playing it on my full screen desktop, big monitor, and it seems pretty smooth. As you can see in the top left, I'm getting a pretty consistent, very good frame rate, which helps. But yeah, I have to say that I think it's perfectly playable on PC. It's not just a mobile game. Okay. On to the list. Pros. Here are the pros of Torchlight Infinite. This is mostly versus Path of Exile. So it's new. It's not 10 years old. Path of Exile stands. I hate to tell you this, but the game itself is literally like 12 years old or more than that. It is very old. And although they've done a lot of engine upgrades and improvements to things, there are a lot of little subtleties to the game now that you're going to notice in compared to newer games that show its age. One of them is where the camera sits, just how close you are to your character, compared to where the skills fire. You just can't see anything. And I think that's, trying to be a little too Dark Souls. It needs to try to be a little more Diablo 3. Anyways, doesn't matter. The point is, it's an old game. Torchlight Infinite, one of the pros of this game is that you get skills whenever you want at the level that you're at. Path of Exile, if you buy a fireball gem, it will always be level 1, full stop. So, for example, if you've leveled up to level 50 and you're having a blast, but you're like, I wonder if fireball would be fun too. I'm going to try that spell. If you buy it from the vendor and you use that skill, suddenly your damage sucks because you're using a level 1 gem. In this game, if I'm using Frost Attack, whatever the hell this thing is right here, and I want to switch to Ground Slam, I can go in and buy a Ground Slam gem that has, I think the maximum level you can buy is level 16, but the point is that it's not nearly as painful as trying to switch in Path of Exile. This is really more of like an SSF quality of life kind of thing, but you get the point. No attribute requirements for skills or gear. I cannot emphasize enough how annoying it is in Path of Exile to try to be a build maker and creator and go through the rigmarole of researching, and you basically have to put your information into Path of Building just at the very bare minimum to know if you can even equip your weird pieces of gear that you want and if you have enough stats on the tree. This game, there's like no requirements. It's very low barrier to entry. It's very painless. There's just no friction there. If you want to switch a build, you switch a build. If you want to use a different skill or a different item, it doesn't matter that you have 10 intelligence. It's completely irrelevant. Free respecs to level 80. A respec in this, the terminology here is that you can switch your tree, and a respec is what people sometimes use to refer to as like using an orb of regret in Path of Exile. You take a point off your skill tree, and then you put it somewhere else. Well, in this game, the skill tree, it's talent tree is what it's referred to. These points, you can completely revamp them. You can reset the whole thing for free below level 80. Now, I'm level 89 here, so I can't do that anymore without spending some regret points, but early on in the game, it is so nice, especially once you're just entering maps in the level 60 range. It's so nice to be able to try out new skills consistently. You don't have to redo your entire character with regret orbs, or more savagely in Path of Exile, what you always, generally end up having to do is just level a whole new character if you want to try a different spell. which sucks, frankly, and it's a huge time suck. Now, more quality of life stuff. This game has a built-in cast on death portal. Basically, if you die, you're usually put back very close to where you died. Path of Exile, there is a lot of, so I said no backtracking in parentheses here. There's a lot of accidental backtracking and inadvertent backtracking in the campaign. This is notoriously true, but even in mapping, if you're not using a cast on death portal, if you do get one shot inevitably in softcore, at least, you have to run all the way back through the entire map to go back to the point where you were. This is just one less, annoyance, I guess. The leveling difficulty in the campaign in this game is very linear. And when I say that, what I really mean to say is that it's easy. All three of these are really just indicative of this game being easy. It's a very easy game. It's difficult to make bad mistakes. It's just the opposite of punishing. It is a very unpunishing, very friendly and newbie and safe game in that sense. So if you're scared to play a game like this because you're terrible at games and you have a 0 APM and you just can't even see things on the screen, this game is pretty safe to play. You can't really mess up. It's pretty safe. I also felt like I leveled a lot faster in this game. You get faster and you blow screens up faster. In Path of Exile, it takes a long time and a lot of investment and usually very, very specific pieces of gear in order to zoom through the maps and blow up the screens and kill everything really fast. In this game, you pretty much blow up the whole screen and the whole map very, very early in your progression. I mean, as early as the early campaign, you're pretty much blowing up a screen, which is so fun and smooth. And I think that this game is basically catering to the kind of arcade style of looter, popping up enemies and exploding. And it's very, I think it's targeting the very specific kind of audience like myself who doesn't really want to stress when they play, really likes to turn the brain off. So the skill level up and hero level up progression is way more linear. So in Path of Exile, especially once you get to kind of like the 70s in the levels, but even before that, even like 50, 60, I just feel like you kind of hit a little bit of a drag period. It's a lot of gear dependencies where if you get a piece of gear, your power level jumps up a lot and it doesn't feel smooth. It feels very staggered. In this game, there are breakpoints in your experience where you can get, you hit level whatever, 55, and you get something valuable that makes your character stronger. But even with those breakpoints, overall, I felt like the smoothness and the consistency of leveling through the process, that progression was very smooth, very, very linear. And you didn't feel like all of a sudden, oh shit, everything is killing me in one hit, and oh shit, I can't kill anything. That almost never happened in this game. It's very smooth in that way, and frankly, it's easier. It's very easy. This is not a difficult game. Progression into end game very smooth and linear. Just kind of mentioned that as well. Right when you get maps, it basically feels like an extension of the campaign. I mean, you're not suddenly dying immediately. Whatever build you select, your build is generally going to do just as well in the end game as it did in maps. I mean, as it did in the campaign. The build upgrades are much more linear and it's experience gated. So Path of Exile player power, there is a lot of player power dependent on the level of your character. But in this game, I think it is even more so. And it feels, in Path of Exile, sometimes it feels a little bit like nothing is happening when you gain a level. You put 1 point on your tree that's like 10 to strength, and you're doing the exact same thing as you did before. And even 2 or 3 levels in a row, let's say you get 2 points of stats and then 1 point of life and then whatever. In this game, it feels like the upgrades to your build are more dependent on your experience and your levels and the talent tree that you pick and all the hero traits and things that you do. Whereas Path of Exile, I think, is a little more gear dependent. Monster damage and defenses are more linear. This is really more of a dig at Path of Exile than it is a plus of this game. I think this game is doing what any game should do, and it feels very normal and consistent, and I still don't know why Path of Exile hasn't figured this out. You don't get one shot abruptly in this game. It just doesn't happen. Same with Diablo 3, same with a lot of other action RPGs that have a much smoother and more consistent damage telegraph and damage output from enemies and from monsters, as well as monster defenses. Generally, if it takes you 2 seconds to kill a strong rare monster, later in the same map, it's going to take you about 2 seconds to kill another rare monster. It's not like arbitrarily, because of some weird mods, there's going to be a monster that's impossible to kill that can one-shot you. And in Path of Exile, that happens all the time. Even after they removed Arch Nemesis, the problem still persists. Visual clarity. I can do a whole YouTube video about this. I'm not even going to talk about it. Path of Exile has terrible visual clarity problems. We won't talk about it here. Has shotguns and rifles. I have kind of been a long time fan of, in these kind of isometric ARPGs, like rifles and shotguns and muskets and things like that. It's kind of a steampunk thing. I just think that's fun. But they had it in the earlier Torchlight games. I myself have played Torchlight 1 and 2. And yeah, I like that. Can be played on mobile and tablet. Already said that. It's a little bit of a yikes, but if you're into that. Skills are free. It doesn't cost like an Orb of Chance, whatever. Item pickup radius is infinite. Hate to say this, but Path of Exile, you got to figure that out. It's embarrassing that some items still get stuck behind walls and you can't actually click on them. Figure that out. You shouldn't be, it's just a quality of life thing. Auto loot, a little bit of pay to win. They give you an auto loot feature where your pet can pick up certain currency items for you. And I think that you get it for free initially, but then after like 14 days or 30 days, it expires and the auto loot is disabled again. But it's just a quality of life thing. No accuracy for attacks. Yeah. Sorry, Path of Exile. Path of Exile, melee in Path of Exile is terrible for a lot of reasons. And I'm not going to go through all those here, but having just one more thing to worry about in your stats and in your build is a huge pain in the ass. Frankly, that's my opinion. And it may not be necessary in the modern era of gaming. You may be able to balance the game without needing that, but more forgiving and deterministic crafting. The crafting system in this game, I actually think is just outright better. I think it's way more limited and maybe not quite as exciting and not as deep, but I think in a lot of ways it's better because it's deterministic. And no scrolls. Sorry, Chris. Town portal scrolls and scrolls of identify are extremely dated. There's a reason no modern game implements them. The cons of the game. Okay. This game is not perfect. There are a lot of problems with it. So as much as I'm praising it, and I do enjoy it quite a bit, it is not perfect. It has a long way to go. So it still has recently and nearby. If you don't play Path of Exile, this may not make sense, but basically there are keywords such as when you have hit an enemy recently, or when an enemy is nearby, certain effects happen, for example, right? And those keywords mean nothing. You can't figure out. I say to myself, how recently is recently? When I have killed an enemy recently, is that 3 seconds? Is that 10 seconds? It means nothing. Same with nearby. This game is, this might be a translation thing, but it also is a pain in the ass. Menuing. I'm a desktop player, and the whole UI is super, just miserably awful for a desktop player. It's designed for people who literally point and click at the screen. So the buttons are big and fat. They take up the whole screen, and they're completely inconvenient. There are no hotkeys for anything. It is terrible. Yeah, and we'll talk more about that, the UI later, but zero useful information available. Yeah, so this game is very new. So there obviously is not a path of building thing, which frankly I like. I hated the fact that I had to use path of building, but there's no useful like third-party site. Max roll is really, really limited. I was trying to look up some stuff on a Wilt build, and Max roll had literally nothing. There's another site that has an aggregate list of the legendaries and stuff and the gear affixes, but let's say you wanted to Google search a tenacity blessing and see, hey, what items use this? What is this used for? There's just not a wiki. I think there is technically a wiki, but it's not the same as a Path of Exile wiki. Really annoying for a build creator like me. Really irritating, but it's fine. That'll change over time. Still has stuck move skill annoyances. Leap Slam in Path of Exile has this problem where it'll get stuck on a wall. This game has this weird like faux 3D feature where you can go up and down ramps, and some move skills get stuck and they hang, and it's a huge pain. Bugs and glitches, just a lot of those. Yeah, it's a new game. I mean, I don't know. It just every now and then my attack will keep on attacking even after I've moved my hands away from the keyboard to like bug out, stuff like that. It's still a time grind, you know. Congratulations, folks. It's an ARPG. You have to commit some hours in order to get. I mean, you know, this character that I've got here is level 89. It took a minute to get there. It didn't happen overnight. Terrible stash management. There are no stash tabs. There's an inventory tab system, but the stash is really bad. It's just bad. There's no management. You can filter, or I mean, it's not filter. You can organize them by clicking like an arrow, and it'll organize them for you. But otherwise, it's just a bunch of boxes full of shit. And then inventory screen itself, where you're equipping your gear, very much designed for mobile people. It's terrible for PC. I think the UI is terrible. I think there's so many things they could do to improve it. That is one place where Path of Exile absolutely smokes this game. It's like if you want to swap your ring and you want to compare and contrast the rings and stuff, I think Diablo 3 and Path of Exile do a better job of inventory and gear management. So the Trade House UI, the reason that this stuff is bolded is because I think it's the worst con. It's so atrociously bad where I want to close the game every time I think about trying to trade something. The UI is so atrociously bad. It's awful. It is awful. And I think because I'm a PC player who's used to playing Path of Exile, where the trading system isn't even in the game itself, it's using third-party tools, it's using a formatted website where the entire site is basically giving you lists of information where you can type your number in, you can control F, you can control C, control V, you can use all the normal Windows hotkeys and search for things like a normal freaking trade or auction house you should be able to do. This game, designed for mobile, it is impossible to filter for things correctly. You can't search by price, you can't search. There's so many limited features. I think they're trying to change it, but it sucks right now. The pricing really sucks. I mean, like the trying to buy currency and exchange currency, I think is just awful. 5 maximum skill bar. This is another con of the game. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is the absolute max. This is like a special skill for my character or whatever, but it's not like you can use another hotkey for a skill that's not listed here. This is literally the absolute max number of active skills. So in Path of Exile, I think you can use like 10. And my Warcry build in Path of Exile used, I think, 8 or 9, including Veil skills. So anyways, no PvP. Frankly, I don't care about that, but it's worth mentioning. Not as much content overall. I also don't really care about that for right now, but it's worth mentioning. The game is very new, so there's just not a lot there. You have a pretty... I still have not... I shouldn't say this. I have not fought, I think, a couple of the bosses yet, but it is limited in its content. So searching for builds sucks. I really don't like there's like a path of PoE Ninja builds list that's an in-game feature. It's called the hero ranking feature right here. And I don't like the UI. This is another frustration with it being designed for mobile is I think that you can't search and you can't filter really easily. You basically have to manually click. You have to manually scroll and manually click everything in order to see what you want. I want to be able to use my keyboard. I have a very nice keyboard. Let me use it. Let me use hotkeys. Let me tab through things. I don't know. No third-party tools. It's a new game. There's nothing useful there. And you can't customize the loot filter. That's another con. I wanted to search for specific rings on the ground, and I have to see everything on the ground. So, all right, meme stuff, and then other. Literally and figuratively copy-pastes every single PoE mechanic. I wrote this down. It's still true from my first video, and it is still true even as I speak. All the people in, the chat that talk about, no, this game is Path of Exile is not the first people to do this and that and whatever. But the reality is that this game copies, I think, almost every single basic damage mechanic, ailment mechanic. The ailments are different, I'm sorry, but damage conversion mechanic, and life and mana conversion mechanic, and reservation of skills for your auras, all of those things. It just, the more I play, the more I realize it really is a copy-pasted game. Area of effect skills versus projectile skills. It's eerily similar, which is fine. As I said in my first video about this game, I don't think it's a bad thing to have some competition in the space. And I'm glad a game is trying to use the good parts of Path of Exile. But it is still a meme. Translation stuff, there are times when it actually does impact gameplay and it's irritating because you can't find out information very well. And then there are other times when it's just kind of funny. It's like no lose ends. It's literally, see, no lose ends. I typed it out here. That is literally something in this talent tree. I think I can even find it. No lose ends. Right? I mean, whatever. Okay, and also maybe that's me. I have too big of a brain for this game. I'm supposed to be dumber to play it. The art style is a bit of a meme. I mean, it's freaking bubble art with the occasional gacha style loot boxes. No party play. So this is the other stuff. There's no party play. There are no flasks, which I always thought was an interesting design choice. Even Diablo 3 has flasks, so it's just interesting. They don't do that. They have div cards and they have corrupted gear, which I don't know. I should put that up in the meme section, but it's like, the game is the exact fucking same. And there's no way to cheese XP. Yeah, that's it for the video. That's the whole list. I think my broader point here is that there are a lot more pros than cons. Well, not a lot more, but it's a fun game. It is a really fun game. And as much as I like to roast it, the reality is that the game is entertaining. It's engaging. It's exciting. I think maybe it's the new factor. If this game was 10 years old, I don't think I would be so motivated to learn about it, and I don't think I'd be as excited about it, because there are a lot of things in this game that are exciting. I'm like, what does this mean? let me learn how to make this build work. Right now, the build I'm playing, I don't think anyone else is playing. Now, there's like maybe a couple thousand people playing the whole damn game, so it's not like, or playing this class, I guess, but it still feels exciting to be an innovator. It feels like it's new space. It feels like, we're discovering a new planet. There's so much to explore, and blah blah blah. And, you know, I'm motivated and happy about playing this game, and I hope that it continues. You know, but yeah, I guess that's it from me. I'm sorry that I have not done a video in a while. I'm gonna try to do more. I do have some other videos that I would like to do. I have some other ideas in my back pocket that I'm gonna try to get recorded and get out there. So, yeah, that's it. Love you guys. Bye.